Ever felt that knot of dread in your stomach? That icy grip of fear when the very place you call home, the sanctuary you've built with your own two hands, suddenly turns against you? What if that betrayal came not from nature's fury alone, but from the very people sworn to protect your community? Have you ever experienced that crushing weight of helplessness, watching everything you've worked for wash away, quite literally? Hey there, amazing people. It's truly wonderful to have you join me today. Before we dive into a story that will grip your heart, and maybe even make your blood run a little cold, could you do me a small favor? Tap that like button. It truly helps us reach more incredible viewers like yourselves. And in the comments below, tell me where in the world you're tuning in from. It always amazes me to see how far our little community stretches across the globe. Now this story, this is for you. For everyone who has ever felt powerless against the system, for those who have faced the unimaginable loss of their safe haven. It's a tale of shattered trust, devastating consequences, and the raw, unfiltered emotion of a community fighting for survival. Let's dive into a tragedy that unfolded when the heavens opened, and a neighborhood learned a horrifying truth. The very structure meant to protect them became the instrument of their destruction. The rain started subtly, a gentle patter against the windows of the homes nestled in the Harmony Glade neighborhood. For weeks, it had been relentless, a constant drumming that lulled some to sleep and frayed the nerves of others. But no one, not even the most seasoned residents, could have predicted the nightmare that was about to unfold. At the heart of Harmony Glade lay a small, man-made dam, built years ago by the Homeowners Association, or HOA, as it was commonly known. It was intended to regulate the flow of a nearby creek, creating a picturesque pond that added to the community's charm and property values. Archibald "Archie" Perkins, a retired engineer and one of the first residents of Harmony Glade, had always harbored a quiet unease about the dam. He'd voiced his concerns during several HOA meetings, pointing out what he believed were structural weaknesses and a lack of proper maintenance. But his warnings had been dismissed, often with a polite smile and a comment about his overly cautious nature. Eleanor Ainsworth, a young mother of two, cherished the pond. Her children, 6-year-old Finn and 8-year-old Willow, spent countless afternoons feeding the ducks and skipping stones on its calm surface. The pond was a symbol of the peaceful life she and her husband, Jasper, had worked so hard to create. But as the rain intensified, Eleanor couldn't shake a growing sense of foreboding. The creek behind their house, usually a gentle trickle, was now a raging torrent, its muddy waters rising alarmingly close to their backyard. Across the street, Beatrice B. Sterling, a sharp-witted elderly woman who had seen her fair share of storms, watched the rising water with narrowed eyes. She remembered Archie's warnings about the dam. A shiver ran down her spine. Had they all been so foolish to ignore him? The HOA president, a man named Sterling Abernathy, no relation to B, was a stickler for rules and budgets. Archie's suggestions for a professional dam inspection had been deemed too expensive, an unnecessary drain on the community's funds. Sterling had assured everyone that the dam was sound, built to last. He'd even presented old architectural plans, dusty and outdated, as proof. As the days blurred into a continuous downpour, the water level behind the dam swelled dramatically. The small spillway, designed to release excess water, was overwhelmed. The ground around the dam began to soften, becoming saturated and unstable. Archie, despite his age, couldn't sit idly by. He ventured out in the relentless rain, his old raincoat doing little to shield him. He stood at the edge of the swollen creek, his heart pounding with a growing sense of dread. The water was higher than he'd ever seen it, pushing against the dam with immense force. That night, the unthinkable happened. A low, guttural rumble echoed through Harmony Glade, followed by a sound like 1,000 angry lions roaring at once. The dam had breached. A wall of water, dark and churning, surged through the neighborhood. Homes were ripped from their foundations, trees were uprooted, and the peaceful streets turned into raging rivers in a matter of minutes. The force of the flood was terrifying, relentless. Eleanor and Jasper frantically tried to move their children to the attic as the water crashed through their front door, rising with terrifying speed. Furniture floated around them, and the screams of their neighbors pierced the deafening roar of the water. Fear, raw and primal, gripped them. Would they survive this? B, on the second floor of her sturdy old house, watched in horror as her garden, her pride and joy, disappeared under the muddy deluge. She saw the lights go out in neighboring houses and heard desperate cries for help carried on the wind. A wave of guilt washed over her. She should have been more vocal, should have supported Archie more forcefully. Archie himself was caught in the initial surge. The force of the water swept him off his feet, tossing him like a rag doll. He clung desperately to a floating piece of debris, the icy water numbing his limbs. He saw flashes of his neighbors' homes being torn apart, their lives turned upside down in an instant. A profound sadness washed over him, mixed with a bitter sense of, "I told you so." As the floodwaters raged through Harmony Glade, acts of courage and desperation unfolded. People risked their lives to help their neighbors, wading through the treacherous currents, pulling the stranded from their homes. The community, now united by a shared catastrophe, fought against the destructive power of the water. Days later, as the water receded, it left behind a scene of utter devastation. Homes were reduced to piles of debris, personal belongings were scattered and ruined, and the once picturesque pond was now a muddy scar on the landscape. The emotional toll was immense. Families had lost everything, some had lost loved ones. The cheerful spirit of Harmony Glade was replaced by a heavy blanket of grief and shock. The investigation that followed revealed a shocking truth. Archie's concerns about the dam's structural integrity were tragically accurate. Years of neglect, coupled with substandard initial construction, had made it a disaster waiting to happen. The HOA, under Sterling Abernathy's leadership, had ignored repeated warnings, prioritizing short-term cost savings over the safety and well-being of their community. The revelation sent a wave of anger and disbelief through the survivors. Their homes, their memories, their sense of security, all gone, not just because of a natural disaster, but because of negligence and a blatant disregard for their safety. The trust they had placed in their community leaders was shattered, leaving a deep wound that would take years to heal. Eleanor and Jasper miraculously had survived, huddled with their children in their attic until rescue crews reached them. But their home was destroyed, and the emotional scars ran deep. Finn and Willow, once so carefree, now clung to their parents at the slightest sound of rain. The pond, once a source of joy, was now a painful reminder of their loss. Bea, though her house remained standing, felt the weight of the community's grief. She joined the other residents in sifting through the wreckage, trying to salvage what little remained. The silence that had fallen over Harmony Glade was broken only by the sobs of those who had lost everything. Archie, bruised and shaken but alive, became an unlikely figure of solace. His earlier warnings, once dismissed, now echoed with a tragic resonance. He spent his days helping his neighbors, his quiet strength a source of comfort in the face of overwhelming despair. The legal battles that followed were long and arduous. The residents of Harmony Glade, united in their grief and anger, fought for accountability. They demanded justice for their lost homes, their shattered lives, and the betrayal of trust they had suffered. The story of Harmony Glade serves as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, of listening to the voices of concern, and of holding those in positions of responsibility accountable. It highlights the devastating consequences that can arise when short-sighted decisions are made at the expense of safety and well-being. What are your thoughts on this heartbreaking situation? Have you ever experienced a breach of trust that had significant consequences? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories and perspectives are important. And before you go, if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories that explore the complexities of human experience. Thank you for listening, and remember, even in the darkest of times, the strength of community and the pursuit of truth can offer a glimmer of hope. The moral of this story, my friends, is that ignoring warnings, especially when it comes to safety and the well-being of others, can lead to catastrophic consequences. It reminds us that true community thrives on trust, responsibility, and the courage to speak up when something doesn't feel right. Never underestimate the power of a single voice, and always prioritize the safety and security of those around you.